Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Happy 7th day of Inkvent. Today's ink is behind the door, marked by a little candy cane representing the number 7. I love how a couple of their numbers are represented so creatively and others are being, held up by the snow people. This is just a really fun, lovely piece of art, and I absolutely love teal. It's my third favorite color, so let's just open up the door and see what it might be today. Hopefully this tab will not be too difficult to open. There we go. Just pull that open. This is this pink. It's called blush. So yeah, that definitely would suggest a kind of pinkish ink, although on closer look up looks a little bit like maybe kind of like a lavender or lilac combined with the ink, but of course the swatch will tell everything. And let's see what kind of, this is a standard ink, so that's going to be interesting. I don't know if this will be, dark enough to be legible, or if this might be more one of those inks that looks really, really the best in a rather broad nib, or like, artwork, painting, something like that. But of course, the swatch will determine everything. So I'll see you guys when I set up my overhead tripod. That's showing up a little bit more red leaning than pink or lavendery lilac purple like I had assumed from the color of the label, but it's definitely on the lighter side, maybe on the very lightest side of the medium spectrum, but this is definitely, not giving the type of ink I personally prefer to write with if I can help it. I just personally, my tastes are what they are. No offense to you guys if you prefer, lighter inks, but I just like stuff that, darker, medium, a little bit more obviously readable, particularly if you want to look back on what you've written instead of, oh, you're just like doing this for right now. Just, like light, fast colored pencils are the preference of the medium of preference for artists for a reason as well, because, you can actually see them well instead of just, oh, this looks fun for doodling or drawing or writing with right now. But I think about, 10, like 50 years, whatever, people might want to look back. But it's a nice color. I do like it for that. Just, I personally couldn't see myself getting a full bottle of this ink because it is, so light, and I'm not really into pink unless it's, bright or dark pink. Hopefully I wasn't leaning into the frame and showing you guys my hair again. That's always embarrassing when I discover that on playback. Maybe it would be better to put the tripod on the other side of the desk. That would involve like moving some things around, and just, it's a whole like learning experience for me, a work in progress. It's not really getting much darker even as I'm putting down a little bit more ink. Oh, let's see, I'm gonna do a few like droplets at the top to do the Rorschach type of swatch. I don't think I've been putting enough of a layer of ink for the mini swatch at the top of these pages. As I said, this is a whole learning experience for me. Unfortunately, I put a little bit too many droplets or too much ink on this page for the miniature swatch, and it ended up, bleeding all the way through and onto the like second page after that. That's really embarrassing. I'm gonna have to think of a way around that. I really do not, like wasting paper use as much as possible. But now I'm going to, write the name of the ink and the brand and the day of the Inkvent on the swatch card. This still isn't really doing anything to personally recommend it to me as an ink. I would want a full bottle of, just like way too light. And I'm not even sure this is supposed to be true pinkish, because it's looking more orangey to me in some little swatch here, at least as it's drying up. We'll see how it actually goes when I write the name with a dip pen. I really shouldn't have put nearly that much ink on the page. I should have suspected it might, you know, bleed all the way through. And I just, you know, sorry I sound like a broken record. I just hate wasting paper. And this isn't really sticking so well to the dip pen either. Is this going to be more of a dry ink like Marie Rose? This is interesting. So blush down at the bottom and Inkvent Day 7 up at the top. Well, it does definitely live up to its name. This does look like someone who's blushing, or the blusher makeup. I think I used like rouge maybe like twice or so when I was like 12 experimenting, but I never used it again. It's like, why would I want to look like I'm blushing? I have red cheeks. I personally never saw the point of that type of makeup, but again, I'm not really that much into makeup myself. When I do wear makeup, it's like almost always eye makeup and sometimes fun colors of lipstick, like, you know, purple, blue, green, black, fun stuff like that. That's all staying in the frame. Inkvent 2025. Day 2. Can I squeeze all that in here? Hopefully I can. Not day 2, day 7. Where is my brain? Day 7. Yeah, I don't think I would want to be putting this in a pen for a longer writing sample, because it's just not my style at all. I couldn't see myself, you know, like voluntarily reaching for this, you know, type of ink, but you never know. Maybe it'll look somewhat different when I actually go to do a longer writing sample. So just move that out of the way so I don't drag my arm through it. Diamine Inkvent. Maybe this is feeling on the drier side a little bit, and I do apologize. My writing with the dip pen isn't so, you know, perfect looking. It's awkward to write with a glass dip pen as opposed to an actual pen. Plus, I don't really use like print all that much either, and I'm writing letters much larger than I normally do, just so I can, you know, fill up a lot of space. It's one of my, you know, idiosyncrasies. Freud would probably have a field day with me. I mean, not probably, he definitely would have a field day with me. Teal Edition. Teal Edition. Dip again. Yeah, so far this does seem like it's kind of on the drier side, despite bleeding through embarrassingly all the way into the other pages. Day 7. Day 7. Blush. This is a standard ink. Definitely looks pretty, but again, not really my style at all. But of course, no offense to you, because hopefully I was not leaning my hair into the frame. I need to stop instinctively leaning down like I do when I'm not filming myself. I guess it's just an ingrained habit. Standard. Oh, hopefully I can squeeze all that in. Oh boy, that was bad. Whatever. I should have planned more for my spacing, and now I'll do a little bit of a longer writing sample and get back to you guys. There is a completed writing sample. This was not a pleasant experience at all. It seemed like a very dry ink. At first I put just a tiny bit in the converter of my Lamy All-Star Aquatic, which has a medium nib, and that it still wasn't flowing well even when I took it out of the dip pen. And then I tried just a tiny bit again in the converter of my Lamy All-Star Black Purple, which has a broad nib, and again, like nothing. I mean, it wrote somewhat better, I guess, than the dip pen. You can see the color a little more obviously, but it was not a pleasant writing experience at all. It came out way too light, way too dry. I frequently would have to go over the letters like a couple of times just to have the color showing up. It was so uncomfortably dry. That's the swatch which I think has dried up a little bit. And as you guys can see, it was such a bad writing experience. And color for me. I just filled up the rest of the page with painting some shapes. And even when I was using big swaths of color, I'm sorry, I have trouble pronouncing the letter TH even after all these years and taking speech classes in upper elementary school. But anyway, even when painting with a brush in a larger surface area, it still came out very dry, and I would have to frequently dip the brush back into the bottle just to get somewhat more color. And I'm not, anti-pink. I do really appreciate dark and bright pinks, which I was never into any kind of pink at all until like maybe like 10 or so years ago, 10, 15, whatever years ago. Oh, gross, girly girls. I'm so proudly tomboyish in my interest. Why would I want to be liking pink like a girly girl, a stereotype? No thanks. But then, surprise, I did start really liking bright and dark pinks for, art and even some of my clothing. So anyway, it's not that it's, a pink ink. It's just a way to light and dry pink ink for my taste. So this is one of my favorite inks. Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji. Unfortunately, this ink was discontinued, so I bought an extra bottle of it before you will be unable to find it anywhere. And this, unfortunately, Kosumosu, which is another Pilot Iroshizuku ink, that was discontinued as well. I really like that ink. That is somewhat on the lighter side, but it's, legible enough, particularly in a medium or a broad nib. And so, oh, here it is. That was looking for that one. Vata Tsukor Cotton Candy from Pannonia. I love this ink. It is so absolutely pretty. One of my favorite shades of pink. I'm sorry if the light isn't particularly picking it up so well, but yeah, this is a great pink ink. And I haven't put this in a pen yet. Abigail, which just means Abigail, the Hungarian form of the name. Another Pannonia ink. I like this pretty pink too. It'll look better in a broad nib, as most light colors do, but this I can't really find words to describe. It's not my style at all. Just too light, too dry. Couldn't see myself putting it in a pen. I will be rinsing these two Lamis out after the video is completed, but so I emptied out the cartridges back into the bottle. It was one of my least favorite inks of this first week of Inkvent 2025. I'm pretty sure, unless there's some ghastly surprises coming down the pike, like last year's Lemon and Lime, a borderline illegible yellow ink, I'm pretty sure this is going to be finishing in the my bottom 3 of this year, but you never know how the rest of the calendar is going to shape out. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow, the 8th of December, a very sad anniversary. So thanks again for watching. Bye.